The most important part of any video game is the part that most people just skip. But without it, the experience can fall apart in seconds. Tutorials in video games have a bad reputation among gamers, so when we... Tutorials are the first time that we as the player get to... It's the first impression, so... Before we get into the video essay, I just wanted to jump in here and remind you to subscribe and like the video for more content like this every single month. It's free and really helps the channel grow. Thank you so much. Video game tutorials are one of the hardest things to get right. When they're done well, you don't really think about them. They can be seamless and still be effective at guiding you into an unfamiliar world. But more often than not, it can feel like a game is holding your hand or patronizing you, with no chance of escape.
Class is starting.
Like you're sitting in a lecture that you've heard a million times. Teach me how to play your game and explain your mechanics, but don't make it boring. I realize that's kind of an impossible ask most of the time. A lot of video games are an endless interconnected web of systems that all feed into each other, and that means they sometimes require more in-depth explanations. And when you really think about it, we're asking devs to give us a comprehensive walkthrough of everything that's going to come up in their game within a matter of minutes. That's a lot of pressure, but some games definitely do it better than others. Of course, smaller games have it a lot easier. Little Nightmares doesn't need as much explanation as something like Final Fantasy XV does. And when you get into something like a real-time strategy game, good lord. But tutorials are necessary because every game is different, and you can't assume that every player who picks up a new game has played similar games before. Lots of videos on YouTube explore what gaming can be like for people who have never played a video game before, and videos like this prove how vital well-designed tutorials really are. If someone's first experience with video games in general is overwhelming or underexplained, it could really put them off the medium for life. But then again, not every gamer is starting from scratch with every game they boot up. So tutorials also have to be careful not to over-explain commonly agreed upon ideas and concepts, otherwise they become patronizing for more seasoned gamers. I don't need a pop-up to tell me that this red barrel is going to explode when I shoot it, that these spikes are an insta-kill, or that these white ledges are ones that I can climb on. I've seen the argument that these tropes are played out or too video gamey, but video game tropes like these exist as a shorthand so that developers can cut down on explaining every detail of a game. Having some kind of shorthand to fall back on just makes for a more efficient explanation process and a less confusing gaming experience with each new game. Especially when games do something new and imaginative though, a good tutorial can make or break the game. A gem of a title could have the most addicting gameplay loop and the freshest design ideas of all time, but if the tutorial falls short, we won't be able to experience it. Coming up with brilliant concepts isn't enough. Knowing how to teach those concepts is equally important, if not more so. So, if tutorials are definitely an integral part of the games we play, why are so many tutorials ineffective? Well, because video game developers know how to develop video games, not how to educate people. Those are two wildly different skill sets, and effectively teaching people is its own very specific science. Most people, statistically speaking, learn through doing, through engaging with what they're learning about, and through repetition. Very few people learn through simply reading. So then, text pop-ups really don't seem like adequate teaching tools for something as involved as Subnautica, right? Laying out the information is rarely enough. Like Nikolai Berbeche said in his 2016 GDC talk about tutorials in video games, teach gradually through experience. And this concept doesn't have to be relegated to early game tutorial sections. When players are presented with new concepts throughout a game and are given subtle clues on what to do with their newfound abilities, in place of explicit explanations, it can be really empowering for them to feel like they figured out something on their own. As a player, that illusion can make all the difference in the world, even if everything around them was designed to subtly lead them to that conclusion. Like Nintendo often does in their Mario levels. Listen, I make video game video essays. It was only a matter of time before I brought up the design of Mario games, alright? Teaching gradually through experience is the Italian plumber's middle name. Even in his most off-the-wall outings, Mario teaches players how to maneuver through and master new ideas constantly, without any explicit tutorials most of the time. Classic Mario levels introduce a new concept, build on that concept, and have you prove your mastery before finishing the level, all in a matter of minutes. Imagine if every Mario level instead gave you a cutscene and text pop-ups explaining each new mechanic as it arose. That would be an absolute nightmare. Another great example of this style of teaching is Breath of the Wild's Great Plateau section. While Breath of the Wild has a lot of departures from the typical Legend of Zelda formula, the Great Plateau serves as a wonderful tutorial area that teaches you how to play the game both explicitly and subtly. Some things like the Sheikah Slate abilities are laid out in text before you get to take them for a spin. But other concepts, like weapon durability, environmental temperatures, and the effectiveness of cooking are things that you naturally experience as you move through the plateau at your own pace. This tutorial is a perfect example of how to teach a player a laundry list of things about a complex game without many boring pop-ups or info dumping. And although the Great Plateau is unskippable, at least it's fairly quick if you already know what you're doing. It's pretty much the perfect self-contained tutorial for a sprawling open world like this, and a lot of other open world games could definitely take note. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the majority of JRPG games. One of my favorite genres, but even I have to admit their tutorial sections often feel like a chore. In turn-based JRPGs especially, tutorials have a bad reputation, and it's not without reason. Players can often expect to be reading blocks of text for 3 to 4 hours before the real meat of the game even starts. This mostly comes down to every 60+ hour JRPG having a large array of interlaced mechanics that all inform each other. And to understand them all can take quite a bit of explaining. Does this game have random encounters in the overworld? Okay, how does the battle system work? What does everything on this UI mean? When I do win enough battles, how does leveling up work? In this genre, each question usually has a different answer, even across different entries in the same series. Final Fantasy, as an example, is very well known for having completely different mechanics and systems with each new release.
Nothing personal.
One game can be a linear, semi-turn-based melodramatic romp, while another is an MMORPG, and the next one after that is a real-time open-world action game. So a comprehensive, non-skippable tutorial is often required to understand what you're stepping into the first time around. The first 3 hours of Kingdom Hearts 2 are notorious for this exact reason. While it's universally thought of as the best game in the series, most people can agree that the Twilight Town opening is way too drawn out, even by JRPG standards. We play as Roxas in place of Sora, who we've become attached to over the last 2 games. And after those white-knuckle fights against the unhinged forces of darkness, we now find ourselves doing our best Sisyphus impression, pushing a cart up a hill over and over and over for some reason. It feels like the game comes to a screeching halt before even leaving the station. And if you want to go back and relive your nostalgia with the rest of this great game, are you going to want to struggle through that Twilight Town section again? At least you kind of know what you're getting into with the JRPG, right? So if JRPGs take too much time explaining their mechanics, what happens when we completely get rid of the tutorial and let the player figure out everything on their own? We could get simple games with foreboding aesthetics like Inside or Grease, however you pronounce that. Games that are pared back and concise, but still deliver an intuitive gameplay experience that gradually folds in more and more as you go, taking you from holding right on the analog stick to walk through a dark forest, to mind controlling a large group of zombie people, or whatever is happening here. Then again, without a tutorial, we could also get a game like Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. I loved this game. It's heavy and raw with some really fresh takes on what video games can even be. So let's look at the opening. Is it immersive? Yes. But how do I play this game? Beyond moving in a certain direction and focusing on runes in the environment, not a whole lot is told to you about how to play. It took me about an hour into the game to realize that I could block during battles. And I only figured this out because someone in my Twitch chat told me. Don't forget to block, they haven't taught me how to block. So I can't. They never told me that, ever. That's ridiculous. That is very important. And they should probably tell people how to do that. What the fuck? I thought the first boss fight was supposed to take 20 minutes to complete. But apparently, you can kick, parry, block, and run to close the gap between you and your enemies. Since combat was never fully explained, I didn't know that all these tools were at my disposal, and that's just fucking annoying. The devs at Ninja Theory said they took out the HUD and the explicit tutorialization because they wanted to immerse a player in this experience. And to their credit, they achieved it. It's a very immersive game, and the sound design really brings everything home. Pop-ups delivering bits of tutorialization are completely immersion breaking, forcing the start of the game to a grinding halt. Having no tutorials at all does allow the game to have a certain pace and mystery, but at the cost of leaving a player missing out on vital information, and that's just not a fun experience. Leaving out vital information in the interest of mystery looks like we're about to talk about. Whenever I bring up Dark Souls in this conversation, a lot of fans point to the messages on the floor of the Undead Asylum. And yes, if you see them, you can inspect each instruction and learn what the buttons do in a general sense. This button's a heavy attack, this button holds up my shield, this button initiates a drop attack. Oh, that didn't work. I found a pyromancy flame, that's cool. How do I use it? I have to attune a slot to the... How do I do that? Why is armor never explained in any part of the game? Wait, what does this symbol mean? What the fuck is happening? Oh, I guess I'm dead. These little notes on the floor are not a comprehensive tutorial. They do not tell you how to play the game in any useful way. As far as I'm concerned, they're just as bad as text pop-ups in terms of how they teach a player the ropes of Lordran. I understand leaving some advanced non-essential techniques for the player to find on their own, like in Shadow of the Colossus where you can stand up on your horse as you're riding her, and then from there grab onto a nearby eagle to catch a ride. That honestly took me hours to try and capture. Please be impressed. Ooh, ah, wow, very cool, Otter. But if you're trying to tell me that my character doing a kick instead of attacking is adding to the mystery of the game world, you may have watched way too much VaatiVidya content. And yes, I'm still working on my video essay dedicated to Dark Souls. Stay tuned for that. Although I will give From Software credit for making these instructions easy to skip for returning players. But by the same token, that means first-timers could completely miss them in Bloodborne, for example. Why would anyone naturally go over here? Like we discussed earlier, there's a lot of content on Gaming Video Essay YouTube focused on introducing non-gamers to gaming through something like Dark Souls. And rather than showing how difficult Dark Souls can be, it really just shows how poorly designed their tutorial is. And bad tutorials don't make games hard. They make them inaccessible. Games like Celeste, Titan Souls, and Cuphead remain really difficult despite having effective tutorials that let players know exactly how to play the game and what they can expect going forward. They're comprehensive, don't keep anything from you, and are really friendly to newcomers, despite what Polygon game journalists might have you believe. But I think when it comes down to it, tutorials are a form of accessibility. If a game developer isn't willing to put in the effort to properly implement an effective tutorial, it shows their focus isn't on their game being accessible to everyone. And without question, the medium of video games should be accessible to anyone who wants to experience it. This art form is not just for those who don't experience color blindness, deafness, dyslexia, or any number of things. In my eyes, that is a non-negotiable. So when I saw all the accessibility features in Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, I thought, wow, Ninja Theory really went above and beyond to include everyone, until I started the game, and nothing was explained at all. By the way, if you want to hear more about accessibility in video game design, go over to Game Maker's Toolkit. There's a whole series of video essays about the topic. Mark clearly knows what he's talking about, and I'm just over here doing my best. We need to stop taking video game tutorials for granted. So next time you start up a shiny new game, take some time to pause, look around, and take in exactly how this game is teaching you. Is it through an explicit tutorial that takes you through each and every mechanic? Does it throw endless pop-ups in your face? Or does it take a more nuanced and less obvious approach? Does it let you figure things out on your own? Or does it hold your hand? And is that effective for the type of player that you are? For me, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice's hands-off learning approach doesn't work very well at all, which is a shame because that almost put me off this otherwise near-perfect game. And that's exactly why well-designed tutorials are so important. Tutorials are the first impression, and a game's first real shot at getting players, seasoned or unfamiliar with the medium, invested in that experience. If a game doesn't nail it in that tutorial, it might just be another... Hey there, thank you for watching the video essay. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and click the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. I put in 40+ hours into these videos every single month, so I would really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Also, what's your least favorite video game tutorial? Let me know in the comments below. My personal vote has to go to Persona 5, which sucks because I love that game, but the tutorial is so slow and unskippable, it really makes me think twice about playing the game again. Also, I have to say a huge thank you to Oyster Milk, Voxamandius, Mumpow, Puzzled Monkey Tree, and Dear Papaya. Those are my wonderful monthly supporters over on my Ko-fi page who make videos like this possible. There's a link down in the description to that page if you also want to become a monthly supporter for as little as $4 a month. You'll get some behind the scenes access to the video essays, some fun bonus content, and of course, a shout out at the end of the videos to show my appreciation. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitch, on Twitter, or join the Discord, there's also links for those in the description, so check those out. Anyway, see you in the next video.